Now, Blond Me, of course, we've got two different products. We've got the clay, yay, 7 levels of lift, up to, of course. And then we've got 9 plus, yay, 9 plus, love this too. Clay, of course, is white. And because you can get confused with the tubs, right? Don't. And then Blond Me 9 plus is blue. Now, when I first started balayaging, let me lean on this a little bit. When I first started balayaging back in the 90s, we didn't have clay, and so we used normal lightener. Now, it's not a problem to use normal lightener. You can use Blond Me 9 plus with it, but the consistency of it makes it so difficult. And then you have to use saran wrap or plastic, all those things. And a clay makes your life easier, much easier to work with. And so I'm going to demonstrate the two different products to you as we go through. Then we're going to go through some sectioning, and we're going to take you through all the different gestures and how you hold your brushes. Sound like a plan? I hope so. I hope so indeed. So let's start off with my clay. Here it is, pre-done already. And I'm just going to stir that in. Now you can stir it in with a brush or with your comb, either way, it doesn't matter. But the mixing ratio is 1 part clay to 1.5 parts developer. Now, clay is so different, guys. I get loads and loads of messages about clay. And you need to use 40 volume to get to up to 7 levels of lift. Now, 7 levels of lift is going to be determined by a couple of things on there. So don't say you will get 7 levels of lift until you've done an analysis of the head. We want to be taking into natural level. So if it's a dark base, it's going to have more red undercoat or underlying pigment, depending on where you are in the world, which means it's going to be harder to lift and it's going to reveal more warmth. If the hair is really, really dense, it could lift differently to really, really fine. And if the hair's coarse, it can lift differently too. So do that analysis. And if the hair is pre-coloured, you're going to have to work with the chemical undercoats as well, which makes that more difficult to lift through to your tone. Whatever you lift it to, however you lift there with your clay, your undercoat, your underlying pigment, is going to determine the toner, the gloss, the glaze that you're going to use. Now this is what the product looks like, and this is what makes it so cool to me. It's like that. I always talk about it looking like cream cheese, right? Cream cheese or icing on a cake, that kind of feel to it. It makes it glide over the hair really, really nicely. Now I've mixed up my Blond Me 9 Plus as well, because I wanted to show you that. And I've mixed this 1 to 3, and the mixing ratio is 1 to 2.5, 1 to 3.5. So I thought, well, 1 to 3 will be fine for you, and we can see what that's like as well. Because I know that lots of you love your 9 Plus. 9 Plus for me is going to be for my foil work, it's going to be for my scalp bleaches, it's going to be for my corrective teasy lights, things like that. But already you can see the difference in the consistency. I do love it. I've mixed this with 20 volume. I would never mix Blond Me 9 Plus with 40. The recommended max is 30, but I never go above 20. But look at the difference, right? It's more runny, which means we're going to have more problems with it going through the hair. I'm going to demonstrate both for you as well, because I think it's really, really important. By the way, I picked up these Schwarzkopf scales in London. Aren't they fantastic? They're so cute. I love them. Love them, love them, love them. All right. So let's go through. Let's have a look at it. Let's break it all down. So here we have a mannequin head. Now, balayage is going to be dictated by your haircut, right? And it doesn't matter how you want to do it. The haircut is going to tell you where to place it. And the aim is for a softer transition from the scalp to a heavier coverage through the end. So it's going to go darker, lighter, lightest, and that's lovely soft transition. Lots of us struggle with getting that transition line in. I'm going to show you how I do that as well. Lots of you on here, which is really, really good, from all over the world. It's so great to see you all. We're doing Balayage 101. My name's Jack Howard. Jack Howard colour, and we're working with Blonde Me today from Schwarzkopf Professional. I love my Blonde Me. All right, so I'm going to brush this through. Now, wherever the parting is, whether it's on the side or the front, you're going to work towards the parting. And I'm going to just go through and I'm going to show you what this looks like. I always like to separate from the top of the crown to the back of the ear for my first panel. Here we go. And I like to keep everything really, really nice and clean. It's really important that we don't get confused with our sectioning patterns. So take the time at the beginning of the session with your client and get that placement, that section pattern in, nice and clean, and then you can go from there. Right, here we go. She's pretty. And then just clip that out of the way. And that's what she looks like. So we've basically centre part, crown to the back of the ears, 3 sections. Balayage is quicker than foil highlighting once you get the flow of it. And the philosophy behind it is that less really is more. So the less you put in, the less hair that's covered, and you get more of a contrast to it. Now obviously, some people are going to want heavier because they want to go lighter, and some people are going to want less. That's up to you as the artist to make that decision with your client. My client hasn't told me anything today, but there we go. Now, I like to section, I like to keep everything really clean, of course. I like to section in triangles. Now this is my basic sectioning pattern for a virgin application. Let's just take a little bit more out of there so we've got a little bit more space to work with. It's cool. Let's have a look, that looks nice. And let me show you what the back looks like. And I like to clip everything out of the way. Really important to clip everything out of the way. We don't want to get confused. That's why I love these grips. And that's what that looks like. That is my first sectioning pattern for the back. Now, I like to use a board because I like to use my product on it. And we talk about balayage. It's a surface painting technique. You're painting on the surface of the section. Now, if the section's too fine, what's going to happen there is that you're going to have too much saturation. And I've noticed that lots and lots of people are saying, oh yeah, saturation, saturation. No, this is about painting on the surface of the hair. So this is good. Let's go back at some of these here. I just saw something there. What was the clay? Could you please show the package? Yes, of course I can, absolutely. This is the clay, Blonde Me clay. There you go. Bond reinforcing technology in there as well. So really, really neat. Now, so this is really simple, but I think that it's great to have reminders of what we need to do. Now look, if I take a slice of hair, and that's a slice, it's a big slice, but it's still a slice. If I take a slice, what do you notice about the hair at the bottom? It gets finer and finer and finer. And when you do a weave, it's a really rough weave, all that hair disappears into the end. Now balayage, what we want to achieve is we want to achieve blonder through the bottom, that pop of colour just there, and we want to feather it to the root. So I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to take my extra clip, I'm just going to pop it up there, like so. Then I'm going to take my board, there you go, and I'm going to put some product on it. Not too much, just a bit. And then it's important for me to have the right brush. I like a nice clean brush. So there's my product. Look at that, so nice. And we're going to start off and we're going to do a classic formation. So it's a classic gesture. Here we go. It's nice for you. Now, first off, I've taken a deep V underneath. Let me show you that here so you can see that a little bit better. So we've got lots of hair underneath here, right? This hair isn't painted. This hair is going to provide the contrast that you want in your section. You're only literally painting over the top section, but the underneath piece also gives us more hair here, which is where we want it to go blonde or blonder. So look at my brush. Tension is really, really tight. Let's come in a bit for you. Tension is really tight. And I'm loading in the middle. And then feathering up to the root. And I keep going back to the middle. Look at that tension, it's really tight. And the board hasn't gone underneath at all. Keeping that tight. I'm going to save this live, don't you worry. There we go. Got that nice shape in. Bring that back out so you can see. And look, nothing has gone underneath at all. Let me just scroll through that. Gosh, so many comments. Glad you're enjoying it. So there we go. Now, through here, we can still see hair. So we want to make sure we've got more product on. Because everything we see when the product's wet, we will see when it's dry. So you can go in, you can see that feathering through there. Loads of product on there, but still nothing underneath. The only area that you want to saturate is just the bottom. We just glide that underneath. There. Really nice. Now, there you see, the ends have been saturated. I believe you do have the clay in Canada, guys. Now, this area is really important. The deeper this V, the softer the result will be. So if you've got a client that's really sort of colour shy, you go much deeper with that V, and then she'd have less lightness to it. Do you like that? I like that. Now, the clay is designed to easily paint with the hair. It's this consistency here just allows you to really layer it on top of the surface of the hair and then feather it through. And that makes life so simple. Now, if your client is this level and she wants to be ashy blonde, super light from root to tip, balayage isn't going to be for her, right? She might think it is from looking at videos and Instagram, but for her, it's going to be more about doing a foil technique. So the volume and the ratio, absolutely, I'd love to share that with you. It's 1 part clay to 1.5 parts developer, and I always use 40 volume with it to get to up 7 levels of lift. So Marie, thank you so much for sharing that yes, you can get clay in Canada. And guys, if I don't get to a question and you know it, because it's difficult for me to see sometimes on the phone, please join in the community spirit and answer those questions, because it's really, really important to me that we're all sharing the information and supporting each other. Now, this is called a classic gesture. It's got 2 points there, so it's classic French. It's got depth in the middle, and it comes, so it's soft, dark, soft, coming into lighter, going into lightest there. Now let's see what that looks like if we use our Blomney. Here's the Blomney, 9+. You can see that it's a bit runnier consistency through there. And I know a lot of people want to paint with it, but I just find it so much harder. So let's go again, let's do another section and have a look at what that looks like. Okay, here we go. So again, using the back of your tint brush, it makes life much easier. Go through and take that section into a deep V, as so. There you go. So it's exactly the same kind of sectioning. And you can see already it's much more liquidy. It's harder. You can see that it's harder to get on, and you can see hair through there. So product is really important. It's harder to feather. Now, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's easier to make mistakes with. Now, I want to show you what those two look like, because I know you see all the hair underneath there. That's not going to lift as evenly as that, and that's from using the 9 Plus. So I always go to the clay for my balayage and the 9 Plus for my foil work and my bleach and tone. Now let's go back in again and do another one. So again, we're back with our clay. We've taken that deep V underneath, which is great. And you can see immediately, it's much easier for me to work with. It takes the work out of it. That's the brilliant thing about the clay, Blommy clay. With the bonding forcing technology in it, it's super fantastic. The hair feels in great condition. And then of course, using the Blommy masks and shampoos, the Keratin Restore shampoo, just fortifies those bonds and makes the hair even stronger, and it's a retail opportunity as well, which is really cool. There we go. Push that up to the root. If you see something you don't like, just go in with the back of your tint brush like so, correct that. And you can see that everything is in my hand ready. Still nothing underneath, which is really, really important. And then bring that down through the ends, making sure that you've layered enough product on the surface and that you only saturate the ends. There. Boom. See? So pretty. Now, if you're using clay, it's only going to stay on the surface, right? As long as you hold your brush properly and you're very gentle with the application. I'm going to show you a bit more of that in a minute. You don't need to put cotton wool underneath it, which is a time saver, because it's not going to bleed underneath, because it's only painted on the surface. And then, because it's a clay, the top of the clay seals over and dries, but inside, all the work's being done by the 40 volume to give you the lift inside that. So you don't need to put any product on top, any saran wrap or foil on top of it. You can leave it totally free like that, and it makes life just easier and quicker, right? Because speed is something that we truly need in the salon, in a commercial environment. We want to be able to get through these jobs as quickly as possible. I'm going to do one more for you here, and then I'm going to show you another gesture. So again, just working that product there, like so, on my board. Let's just push this out of the way here. Just helps. Move that over there, keeping everything nice and clear. So again, that's not right. Let's take that out. You can see there, that deep V underneath, that's just been caught there. You can see that. And we're only painting on the surface. If you paint underneath, you're going to get transference of product, which is not so good. Better, that's good for you. Yeah. So again, load that product. Look at the tension. It's really, really tight. And paint away. Load in the middle, feather to the root. Load in the middle, feather to the root. If you go in here to begin with, it's going to cause you more problems because you could get a lump of colour. So it's easier, and that's what we're talking about, ease. It's easier to load in the middle and feather it up. Like so. Nice. And then just saturate the ends. nice, yeah? So you can see, for me, I'm not saying you don't have to do it this way, but you can see for me that the difference between the clay and the 9 Plus, the 9 Plus is really weak. Not enough product on there, it's hard to keep that product on the surface of there. It's going to leak through and it's going to cause bleeds and all those things that are going to absolutely upset you and upset the client too. So for me, when I'm doing my freehand work, I'm always going to go to my Blonde Me clay. Now, as I said to you, if the client wants something brighter, if she wants something cooler, right? I'm not going to do balayage on her simply because I haven't got the heat to get the lift. I'm going to have to transition from darker, softer, through to lightest at the bottom, right? So it's going to have areas where it goes into warmer. My friend talks about it, about the sweet spot, which is sort of this area where you get all that lovely different colour going through there. That's what makes it look so natural. If somebody wants something super, super light, I'm going to go into my foil work and then I'm going to use my 9 Plus. It's as simple as that, really, really simple. So remember, let me have a drink. Got me some kombucha. That's better. So remember, finding out what your client wants and the product that you're going to fit. Am I going to be using 9 Plus, Blonde Me 9 Plus, or am I going to be using Blonde Me Clay? Both have different jobs to do, but both sit really well together. And then it's about what the finished look is like. How do I do it? This is a classic gesture. It's 2 points, deep V in the middle. It's going to be soft. It's going to give you a very highlighted kind of feel. So it's a really nice look. My sectioning pattern, of course, is in a deep V through here, because that means this hair drops forward, like so, and it means I put less in. If I work straight across, you end up putting more in, and there's better, worse opportunity of what's happening is that you put too much in, and then, you know that moment when you sort of rinse the head, and you're like, oh my God, there's too much. Where's the contrast? That helps with that. It really, really does. So let's take another section and let's do another gesture. Let's take straight across on this one. No, let's not. Let's do it this way. Yes, that's nice. Glad you're all enjoying it so far. Lots more to come. Let me just take that out of the way. Okay. That's nice. That looks good. Let's tighten this up. Brilliant. So we're going to do a California paint on this one. This is another one of the gestures, and this is a great one to work through the hair really quickly. And I find I get ribbons and ribbons of blonde with this one, so it's really good. All right, so let's have a look at what about Goodbye shampoo? Yes, absolutely, you can use your Goodbye yellow shampoo. I find it sometimes a little bit too strong, and I prefer my Blonde Me shampoos, newly repackaged and reformulated. The neutralizing shades are fantastic. Yeah, there's a regular size brush, but I'm going to use the big size brush now. Okay, so you can use different brushes, absolutely. Let me put some more product on. Okay, now, this section is huge. Right, now I've taken a deep V underneath. You could actually take the whole section if you wanted. Again, it depends on what you're looking for. And let's bring that around. Let me see if I can move her a little bit. I can, which is good. All right, so I'm going to use my bigger brush. We're going to load, like so. Look at the tension in there. Tension's really good. And also notice how I'm applying with the brush. brushes at an angle. See how the clay works so beautifully? Bit more product. Okay. So there, that's 3 pieces, right? So what you're going to get, just leaning in there a bit, is you're going to get a highlight, and a highlight, and then depth in between it, which is really, really nice. But I'm going to do this. I'm going to fill in between. So this is a heavy paint, Californian really. Now just keep going over that. What we want to see is softness at the root still. And see how the clay just glides along. I mean, it's so cool to work with. My favourite product, I think. Well, nearly my favourite product. What do you think my favourite product is? If you know me, you'll know pretty quickly. My favourite product is the detox shots in Blonde Me. They're so good. Now, look at that. Now, you see there at the top, we've got ribbons of blonde going through, and I love that. I love this because it's very, very soft, but it's gone all the way to the root. White is the clay lightener. You're correct. Well done. Thank you for that. So this, loading that product up, pushing to the root, and see, I'm not doing anything away from the root yet. Everything is to the root. There's nothing underneath it. So we haven't saturated. So if anyone's saying to you, have you saturated? You haven't saturated. You're painting on the surface, which is really, really important. Let's go through there. That's really nice. Love that. That feels a bit heavy. Just go in with the back of your brush and correct it. And then saturate the ends. That's the only area you saturate. Push that product through. And look at the control. Look at the control in there. Look, I've kept the shape. So it's really soft ribbons coming through here. Heavier and then saturated at the end. I really love that. That's a great one for my blonde. I love this on a level 7, definitely an 8, definitely a 9. It's just a beautiful technique for those kind of clients, and it just gives you that really pretty blonde. Yes, thank you. I do think that the paint can look really sexy, so I think it's okay to say that. Let's do another one here for you, and let's see what that can look like as well. So again, just clicking that hair out the way, making sure that we're always working super clean, neat sections. It just makes life easier. Oh, and we like an easy life, right? Life is hard enough as it is. So I'm going to put more products on my board. So my board is never overloaded with product. Let's get that there. And let's bring that there. So normally, I'm going to take the whole section. What I want to do is I want to just move that out of the way. Here we go. Good. Move her there. How does that look, guys? Is that good for you? I think so. Now again, we've taken that deepness underneath. Here we go. See that? Just wipe it off. If you don't see something you don't like, fix it. Always fix it in advance because it'll be there when it's dry, so we don't want to do that. Pushing the product with the brush to the root. Now, everyone that says that balayage is a, rooted look, doesn't have to be. It's just softer at the root. You've got to be able to take it with confidence to the scalp. Look at that. All the way up. And you can see the ribbons of blonde there, which is really nice. Yeah? You like that? Good. Good. And then bring that back so you can see. And then you lift up and there's nothing underneath. And that's the key, is making sure that there's hair that you don't paint. And I think that we generally are people pleasers, right? And so we always think we've got to put more in for value for money. Oh, I'll give her a bit extra. When actually with your painting, your balayage work, it can go wrong. Look at that clay. Oh my goodness. Look at that. There. You're going to get all that lovely lift through there. And what does that look like when we look at both sides? There. Really, really nice. So we've done 2 different gestures already. Less is always more. You're right. You are definitely right. We've done 2 different gestures. We've done classic, which is the underneath one. So that's got a lovely deep V in it, and that's beautiful. That's a great one that I use a lot in the salon. Then we've got the heavy paint, which is like a California paint. Now that is really great for certain clients, and I do think that it's great for our level blondes, sort of the 7s, the 8s and the 9s. It reveals much more warmth because of that feathering through the top there. So for anyone that's kind of, I don't like warmth, that's certainly not for them, but you could beautiful wheat blonde on there, really, really nice. Now all these different gestures we also teach worldwide for you, so that you can always ask your sales representative about that, or your academies about that. We teach them worldwide for you, and I travel worldwide for Schwarzkopf too, so you know, I was just in Italy and London doing events, so they're always good in person, and of course they're always good online too. Right, we're going to do another section. As I get to the exhibitable bone, I'm going to take it away from a deep V, more into a semicircle to work with the shape of the head. So let's go here and let's have a look at what we can create there on this piece. I'm going to go away from my big brush. I'm going to go back to my smaller brush. I'm just going to wipe it. I've always got a towel handy just in case. There, that's nice. I'm going to have another glass of my drink. Oh, the lighting worked funny. How's everyone doing? Are you enjoying it? There's lots of hearts going on there. Okay, let's have more product. I've gone back to a smaller size brush in there. And what I want to do here is I want to create some smaller pieces. So, if the haircut is choppy, you're going to want to have finer pieces in there. If the haircut's one length, you can take bigger sections. Always think about that when it's going. And so always think about what the haircut's going to look like before you start doing your pieces. So here, we're going to still take that deep V, right? Remember, we're demonstrating, so we're not working with a haircut today. And we're going to feather up. But the client says that she wants a lived-in feel. And a lived-in feel means that she doesn't want a heavy, highlighted look. She doesn't want to come in every sort of 6 to 8 weeks. She wants to be able to go sort of more the 16-week look. We're not going to go to the root, okay? But here's the trick. Now, for any clients that are watching, I would say this to you as well. If you do it too far away from the root, you're going to end up with a client that looks like her hair looks worn out already. If you go to the scalp, she's not going to like it, because then you're going to have to do a root tap or a root smudge or a root stretch. She doesn't want that either, right? So if she's asking for it away from the root, we want to work on it away from the root straight away. Then we don't have to use extra products and we don't have to spend extra time doing something to get the result that the client wants. So with your paint, you can create these looks. Simply take your finger here and just push that up just a little bit. And that blends that in so nicely. There we go. And then you can just, if you see something you don't like, you can just correct it. And see how that's blended at the root area. That's good. Still, there's nothing underneath, which is really important. Loads of product on there. And then saturate those ends. The ends are the finest, but we do want the pop there. Now, the other thing, when we come to this section, I want you to look at it. Lots of things I've got to say today. So look at that. There's not a line on there from the brush. It's all one, oh, that's too bright. It's all one smooth transition. And that's what you want to get from your brushwork. If you've got lines and marks in your paint, what happens is when you rinse it, you're gonna see lines and marks. And then when you tone it, if you don't tone it to the darkest level that's in that mix, what will happen is it'll be patchy still. So you want to make everything nice and clean and a lovely smooth transitions, and it really helps. But of course, it takes practice. It takes practice, practice, practice. And that's all it does. You know, it helps you. So pull a doll head out, paint along. You can watch this back at your own pace and then do that. But it's really important that we get it right. Let's go here. Let's do another one. And this is creative. But this side, I'm only going to do one side to it. So you can really play. This is what I love. And the clay from Blonde Me allows you to play with it. Still not going to the root. But I'm going close enough that it looks rooty, but then the client's got to come back. Look at that transition line. That's what it's all about. The transition line, really cool. Go down. There. That looks really lovely, I think. Sorry if I say so myself, but there, look at that. So, not to the root on this one, creative. This not to the root either, but close up there, but not to the root, so it still has that rooty feel. Seamless, that's the aim, right? That's the aim. So, let's take another section. So we've done 3 gestures. We've done classic, which is the 2-point. We've done California, which is the heavy paint through there that gives you those lovely ribbons of blonde. We've done a creative version, which is away from the root. And now we're going to do what I call micro. Now, micro balayage, I love because it's great for fringes. It's great for bobs. It's great for converting a foil client to a more balayage feel. But they can be tiny, tiny, tiny. They work brilliantly around the fringes, and they can be great on a face frame as well. Let's have a look at what they look like. All using my Blonde Me clay. Let's take the first one. Bring her down for you. Here we go. Can you see? Yes. Here we go. Now it's only going to be one piece. And too thick. So let's get out of that. See how that just softens that up? nothing underneath. Bring that down. There. Now I love that. Look at that. Really, really delicate at the root, coming into a thicker piece through there. There you go. I'm glad everyone's answering all the questions. There's so many questions. I can't possibly answer all those. Let's paint another one in for you. I will get down to the question box, which is right at the bottom there on my screen. So I know there's some questions in there. So add some more to it and we'll get to those in the last 10 minutes. So again, remember that we're going to scoop out into a deep V through there. And then we're going to paint, oh, a bit too much there. Don't put too much product on your brush. Clean your brush up. I've got some stray hairs on there now. Load in the middle, keep the tension tight. There you go. That's it. True classic balayage. It's absolutely a joy to work with blonde clay because it just makes my job even easier, even more fun. There's another one for you. There, right to the root. Let's do another one. You can put as many in or as not as you want. Now remember, if we're doing micro balayage in the hair, the more gaps, the more piecey it will look. Thank you for that. Yep, ask the questions in the box. And the brush question, I find a softer bristle, and I also think that the best thing to do is make sure that the assistants and nobody else washes your brushes. I wash my own brushes, right? I've got a brush trick for you, actually. Let me just show you that because that just has come to mind. Simply the brush that you use, take a clip, and that keeps it nice and flat. It's a great little trick. Okay, let's go back to our painting, right? This is what we're here for. Paint, 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 paint. Let's do another one. So the more of these that you put in, the heavier the coverage is, right? Because they're small and you put lots of small pieces in, you get more coverage. So you want to be thinking about how much of depth and dark you want to leave in there for the finished result. So I always think of it, it's like the client brings in a picture and there's the puzzle picture. And what we have is we have the jigsaw and we have to put the pieces together to create that picture that she brings in, okay? Alright. And brush size, again, it's up to you for what you want to work with. You can use minis, you can use big. It doesn't matter, it's what you feel comfortable with. Let's push this hair out of the way. Here we go again, here's another one. Ooh, it's good. So load in the middle. Feather to the root. Make sure that there's no harsh lines in there, so the brush is always at an angle. And then saturate those ends. Oh, yes. Look at that one. There, so you can see that through there. And that is the 4 different gestures that I teach around the world. We've got classic, which is to the root, 2 points to it, lots of depth in there for contrast. It's great for, it's the first one that we did today. It's great for a highlighted kind of feel. It's great for a client that might be a little bit color shy. Then we've got California, super heavy paint there, best on levels 7, 8, 9. I prefer it on an 8 and a 9. Much more warmth is going to be revealed because of that heavy feathering at the root area. Then we've got creative, which is away from the roots. But remember, if we go too far away from the root, it's going to not look lived in, it's going to look worn out. And that person's walking around the streets saying that we did it. So I like to go like maybe an inch away from the root. And it also encourages clients to come in more often. And then we've got micro, which is these here, which are the smaller ones, the tiny ones, and they are wonderful to use on fringes, on bobs, on brunettes who are a little bit colour shy, just a few pops of colour. Great for around hairlines, things like that. So it really depends on what you're doing. But blonde meat clay, bonding forcing technology in it. Let's move her out of the way a minute as I come back with my apron. The consistency you want is like cream cheese or icing on a cake. The measurements for that are 1 part blonde meat clay, which is here, and unfortunately my tub is ripped, but this is blonde meat clay. There, blonde meat, it says blonde meat, bonding forcing clay. You try saying that a lot and it nearly kills you. So it's 1 to 1.5, and always measure. I always know when I'm doing an event if an assistant for me hasn't measured, because the product, I can't work with it properly. So I always measure my product myself, it just makes life easier. Now, blonde meat clay will give you up to 7 levels of lift, and just recap on that for you. Let me take these off. Blonde meat clay will give you up to 7 levels of lift, up to, depends upon the natural base, how much warm pigment is in there. So if it's a level 3, you're going to lose a level of lift because there's so much red pigment and granular pigment in there. And up to 7 levels of lift is going to be determined whether it's pre-coloured or not. Density of the hair, thickness of the hair, coarseness of the hair, all that stuff, it comes into play in there, as it does with all your other colour work. The rules of colour have not changed because you picked up a brush and you're painting with it, okay? 7 levels of lift is achieved, up to 7 levels of lift is achieved with 40 volume. A lot of us are scared of 40 volume because we've all been told not to use it anymore, but you're only going to get up to 7 levels of lift. The technology is different in it, and the product is supposed to dry over on the surface, and then you need the stronger volume of developer to get that oxygenation going on, because no air is coming in. 9 plus. Let me just get my 9 plus and let me show you my 9 plus. There you go. That's mixed 1 to 3. It's mixed 1 to 2.5, 1 to 3.5. I sort of went in the middle on that. It's a runnier product. It's not designed for freehand work. Not to say that you can't use it, but you're not going to get the same consistency. If you alter it so that you're putting less developer in, you'll get less lift. It's unreliable like that. I find that my Blonde Me 9 Plus is best for my foil work, my teasy lights, my scalp bleaches, all those kind of things, right? So it's like these two products, these two lightning products, sit in harmony with each other. They might look a little bit same, one's 9, one's 7. They have different jobs to fulfill within our busy days behind the chair. And that's what's most important about it. Blonde Me, oh, let me just tell you this too. Blonde Me 9 Plus, I would use with 7 volt or 20 volt. That's the max I would do it with. You can use 30 volume with it in foil work, but I tend not to, which is really cool. Now, we've got a few minutes left, so I want to grab some questions. I feel like I should pull up a chair, right? I cannot believe the time has gone so quickly. Let's have a look and see what the questions are. Okay, how do you cover grey coverage with lightener? How to cover grey coverage with lighter colour. Grey coverage isn't what we're talking about today. We're talking Balayage 101, but Ask Academy online will give you lots and lots of tips and tricks on that one, so that's a good one. Balayage is definitely a freehand technique, and it's all about painting on the surface, not about saturation, guys. Only saturate the ends. That's really, really important to me that we get that message across. Do you have to use 30 volume with Blonde Me clay? If you use 30 volume, and this is the really surprising thing, if you use 30 volume, you're only going to get up to 4 levels of lift. There's not going to be enough lift for many people. And too many people have been using 20 and 30 and not getting the lift they want, and then say it's the product, when actually it's not. The product is best with 30 or 40, but 40 will give you up to 7 levels of lift. What product do you use to Balayage Technique? So Baby Lights in foil, I'm going to definitely use my Blonde Me 9 Plus with 7 volume. That gives me plenty of lift in there. Brushes, I've answered that one, so I like a softer brush in there. How would you finish the crown with that technique? Cool. So crowns, natural falls, partings, wherever they are, you want to be working with them, not against them. Think about it. I always like to think about it in a way in which, what does it look like when it's dry and I've not had it blow dried? So what does it fall into? If you put too many light pieces in the crown area, what will happen is that it will just go too light and it'll look really light in there and not so light through the ends, and that will look wrong. So again, the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, putting them together is what kind of creates the look for you. Oh my goodness, so many questions. What else is going on in here? I've told the products, how long are you left on? Okay, so I leave the products on for 45 minutes max. Now, when I've finished the whole application, I'm going to always have a look at where I started, just to gauge how the product's lifting. Then I'm going to say to the client, look, it can stay on for 45 minutes, but I'm going to check you in 20. And the 20 minutes is the courtesy to just check in with the client and make sure she's okay. Because if you leave somebody for 45 minutes with a pre-lightener or a bleach, as the client might say, that's sort of a panic situation, right? 45 minutes, what's happening? So I like to check in at 20, but I like to put my timer on for 45, check in at 20, check in at 15, and check in at 10. That's the way I like to do it. And that's really it from me today. The takeaway points are that Balayage is a fantastic service. It's been around for 50 years, but it's about painting on the surface. It's about saturation of the ends, and there's a lovely transition from darker through to lighter. And if your client wants to be a super cool base, you're not going to get that with your balayage lift. Generally speaking, I don't feel, you might say you do, which is absolutely fine with me, but generally speaking, if they want to be super cool, I need to get her a bit lighter. I would then go in with my 9 Plus. Your takeaways are that your tension has to be really, really tight. Sectioning has to be super, super clean. Your brush has to be sort of new, softer bristles so that it's all nice and clean through there. And less is more. The less you put in, the more contrast you'll get. And it's a really simple one, but it's really, really hard for us as hairdressers to sometimes get in through there. I'd like to thank you for joining me today for this. Hour's gone so quick, I can't believe it. And we haven't even got onto face framing or anything like that today. But the Balayage 101, I hope it helps you. I'm wishing you all a happy holiday season. Enjoy, be safe, and thank you so much for joining us. Take care. Bye everyone.